The suspect in the attack on the White House Correspondents' Dinner is supposed to be in court tomorrow morning for his arraignment. But before he enters his plea, his lawyers want the entire D.C. prosecutor's office disqualified from the case. Cole Allen faces 4 federal charges, including 1 count of attempting to assassinate the president. Washington's top prosecutor, Jeanine Pirro, says she's ready to take on the case in court.
You know, I don't really care about what motivated the guy. The only thing I care about is his intent. And as far as I'm concerned, the intent is very clear. He wanted to assassinate the president and anyone who got in his way, in addition to cabinet members. And so that intent is what I need to prove in a court of law.
Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Mercedes Colwin. Mercedes, as we get going with this discussion, I want to read for you part of the motion by Cole Allen's attorneys. They write, in this case, U.S. Attorney Pirro, as well as Acting Attorney General Blanche, are significantly more conflicted. Both were potential victims and targets in what they have described as an attempted mass shooting. They were in the zone of danger, in the line of fire, and could have been killed. Yet these same individuals are moving forward with the prosecution and investigation of Mr. Allen. All right, so obviously the defense has a problem with that. What do you think as an outside observer?
This motion reeks of desperation, John. Think about it. What they're saying is anyone that these 2 individuals who have tremendous backgrounds, are incredibly sophisticated, talented lawyers, prosecutors, and now they're going to be conflicted. Well, these motions are done, frankly, and they are done around the country in many different venues and many different court appearances. But the only way that this motion can actually have any traction, be successful, if you can show that court that Cole Allen will be deprived of a fair and impartial trial. That's it. That somehow his constitutional right to a fair trial is going to be implicated because Attorney General Jeanine Pirro and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche are not capable of prosecuting this case. It's almost laughable. If in order for this motion to be successful, aside from the constitutional rights and other underpinnings, you also have to demonstrate that somehow these 2 individuals that happen to be at the Correspondents' Dinner, their testimony is necessary for the prosecution of the case. Their testimony is not necessary. There is no proof that it's necessary, that they have to stand before that tribunal, before the jury, and give their account of what happened that night. Because, John, how many hundreds of people were there? The prosecutors, Jeanine Pirro's team, can select a number of individuals who can come forward and testify about what they observed, what they saw, what they heard. And that's just in testimony. Let's talk about the overwhelming evidence, the videotape, the ballistics report, the experts that are going to come forward. If no live person sitting at that dinner takes a stand on behalf of the state and the prosecution, you can certainly bring in all the experts, you can bring in your law enforcement, you can bring in the videotape, and that alone can be enough to condemn Cole Allen and find a successful prosecution.
Allen's lawyers...
We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, Allen's lawyers are also asking that the entire D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office be disqualified from prosecuting this case. If you think the U.S. Attorney herself should not be disqualified, I'm going to guess you're okay with having the rest of the office prosecute the case or participate in it.
Without question. I mean, first of all, that judge getting the motion on their desk must just think to themselves, what conceivable proof can you actually establish that somehow demonstrates that Cole Allen's not going to have a fair trial, that somehow his constitutional rights are going to be trampled upon? It's almost laughable, and frankly, it's insulting. And look, if it just so happens that Jeanine Pirro decides that maybe she'll step down and let the rest of her team come forward and prosecute, there's no way, if she even chooses to do so, they can't imagine that the judge would say, no, that's not sufficient. Let's appoint a special prosecutor, or let's look at other jurisdictions around the country and she'll select a prosecutor from those offices. It just doesn't have, frankly, it doesn't really have much weight.
Very quickly, they cite the Hunter Biden case as proving the need for a special prosecutor here. Here's what they write. The appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate and prosecute Mr. Biden, preserve the integrity of the criminal legal process. His subsequent pardon through an entirely political process rooted in the U.S. Constitution does not change that. Any need for a special prosecutor here, Mercedes?
There's no evidence that a special prosecutor is needed here. Frankly, this is a fairly simple case. You've got as I said, all that videotape. You've got lots of evidence to demonstrate that Cole Allen is actually intended to assassinate the president, perhaps others as well in the room. But nonetheless, there isn't anything here. Obviously, he's presumed innocent. The prosecutor will have to prove that their case in court. And exactly as Jeanine Pirro stated, she'll have to show the intent underlying the criminal charges that Cole Allen is facing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's a significant evidence, none of which somehow implicates the need for a special prosecutor in this case.
And he's facing the prospect of a long term in federal prison. Mercedes Colwin, always good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.